Hello and welcome to the Pandaverse. I'm Elgin, the E and C and E,
I'm Christine, the C and the C and E.
and we're joined by Jule Selbo, who's one of our favorite people on the planet because she's a great author.
Mm-hmm.
She writes really good books, and she has a new book coming out on the 28th. It's called 9 Days, and it's the follow-up to 10 Days.
Yes.
Books are doing this countdown thing. I think we discussed that last time.
Yes, 10 days, a Dee Rommel Mystery. 9 days, a Dee Rommel Mystery.
Yeah, you don't have to worry about coming up with a catchy title. And you're working on 8 days. So
I am. I'm working away really fast and furiously. I'm about on page 70, and it's around that time where I go, okay, it's time to go back and read it from the beginning and see what have I laid in that I'm not going to be using, or what have I laid in that I'm not using. And it kind of remind me, because you kind of, for me at least, I kind of like work on pages, then I rework pages, and then I try to move forward, and then I go back and rework. And I try not to go back every single day from page one, because then I'll never.
Listen, that's what I do. I'm terrible at it. I'm so bad at that.
So
yeah, it's like, been doing that for like 3 years.
Yeah.
Oh no. Oh no, you must move forward.
I know.
It better be good.
That was gonna be great.
And then you start asking yourself,
what's different about 9 days?
9 days, well, Dee Rommel, the main character in this book series, it's going to be 10 books. And so she's got a long character arc that will go through the 10 books. And then each of them is going to be a standalone book in essence, except for her character starts at a different place because she's gone through the day before, or the 10 days before. And so 9 days picks her up where she is made a decision about whether she's going to go back to the police force or work for her godfather, the private investigator. It picks up where I've been working on 8 days now, so I'm going to be like, and it picks up with in her romantic life, there's something that's set up in 10 days that then in 9 days gets kind of turned on its head. The town, it's a different season. And she, the plot, the crime mystery centers on a family on Portland, Maine's West End, the West End side of the city, and a family that's been a big family in the city for centuries, and an almost 12-year-old boy, an 11-year-old boy who comes into the office, G&Z Investigations, and says, my mother has pled guilty to murdering someone, and I want you to prove it's not true. So Dee, who you don't probably think is a kid kind of person, is pulled into his life and his way of thinking and the things that he's going through in his personal life. And in a way, it reflects on some of the things that she went through as a child and things that she's thinking about now. So it's just kind of an opening up of her character, which I really am enjoying, because in the 10-book arc, she's gonna change quite a bit.
Yeah. That's exciting.
Yeah.
Well, this boy character's named Czar. It's a nickname. It's short for Zarathustra,
which is a nickname
which I can't pronounce. But he says some really off the wall things. He's very smart, but he says some off the wall things that tie into the mystery later on. So that's really well done. And then there's this whole the lady that is accused of the murder is a famous astrologist. So there's an astrology element that Dee's dealing with, because Dee doesn't believe in astrology. And so that's a nice dynamic that's going on there. And there's a lot of surprises with the mystery as it evolves in it. So I mean, it's a very well done book. I read the draft, or the manuscript. It was beyond draft. couple of things have changed since then, but I also know what changed. So I've been keeping up with the changes.
Yeah.
10 Days won awards, was nominated for awards, and everyone loved it. And 9 Days is actually better.
Oh,
So
thank you. Thank you. Christine is
not only has
Listen, you know how hard it is to like have a sequel, like the next book be better than the first book? Just saying. And you, Jule, listen, you've always been one of my favorite people already, but I'm a fan.
I don't want to disappoint you in 8 days. You put a little pressure on me.
Can you autograph my arm? You won the was it Silver Falchion Award.
Yeah. Yes. How exciting.
So, you gotta win a prize at your local prize with 9 Days. You gotta win, the prize of Butchercon,
Yeah. Yeah, well, it's just I just want to finish the series, but it is nice that it's gotten some awards because it makes me go, oh, okay. Just get up in the morning, keep going,
Yep.
keep going.
It's a validation.
It's a validation. Yeah. A good one. What I think is I think they should just turn it into a TV series. I'm just saying. I think that would be the best series ever.
Well, maybe down the road.
Well,
I think that's something we need to work on, Elgon.
Some people who write scripts. Yeah.
Yeah, it's I really am appreciating, we did get a couple of calls for after 10 days, but I just kind of really wanted to focus on getting at least the first couple books done.
Yeah.
And since I have experience in the television and film world, I knew that I would just get my head would be spinning around and I wanted to just, this has been my dream to write novels for so long. And so to be able to just focus in on that and see how it flows and comes out. And then at some point, if someone comes back and wants to do it, then it'll be great. But I'll kind of know more about Dee and I'll know more about how I want things to be done.
Yes, I agree. Yeah.
This would be a cool Netflix series or an Amazon Prime series.
Or HBO.
Okay, guys, you just pick up your phone, call those guys.
Don't worry, Jule, when you're ready, we're gonna.
We're just pitching for you here.
I'm excited. So you said that 8 Days has come along pretty good.
Yes.
Are there some exciting plot lines we can look forward to?
Well, it starts with a crash on the Casco Bay Bridge, which is the bridge that connects Portland and South Portland. And it looks like an accident. And then very quickly, people realize it wasn't an accident. And who was in the car? Why were they in the car? Why was this driver targeted? It just kind of keeps unraveling and unraveling and unraveling. And Dee is brought into this world of, I don't want to tell too much, but into this world of where human beings are not treated well, and why people think that they can treat people that way. And so it's fascinating for me because there's some really interesting characters that I'm kind of exploring. And when you get down to the why people do what they do, that's what fascinates me. So that was very general, wasn't it?
Yes.
Yeah, people aren't always prone to making sense with their decisions that they make in life.
Yeah.
That's the real challenge, because you may personally think that you're a very logical person. You do everything, and then you see something going on around you and you go, that's crazy. Why would they do that?
Yeah, and I think that people, I know I have over my lifetime said, well, I can't do that. And I realize, when I say that, it means that I've trapped myself.
Right.
Yeah, you're
and so what is it where we kind of say, no, that door is closed and there's no way I can open it. And when in reality there is. but there's consequences always. But where do we stop ourselves? When do we open the door? So I'm looking into that kind of thing that's churning around in my mind.
Yeah, and then you go to a psychologist or a therapist, and you find out that it was your mother that made you do that, or dad or somebody, a teacher.
Or if we were in 9 days, it was Mars or Jupiter,
right,
crashing into the moon.
Your stars have determined it all. You can't get away from it.
Yeah,
I'm excited.
Yeah. And the conferences that I've been to have been really interesting. Killer Nashville, and it was held in Franklin, Tennessee, which is right outside Nashville. Was really fun. It was about 400 and some people. That's where I got the Silver Falchion Award, and all mystery writers. So when you actually go to a conference and it's all mystery writers, there's just a certain kind of buzz and kind of sense of humor, and everybody is excited to see how other people are doing their mysteries. And then I went to ButcherCon just last week, and that was it was about 1,500 people.
Wow.
And each of the conferences has their big guest star. At ButcherCon, it was Jo Nesbø, the Norwegian writer who I've loved forever. And it was, we got some of his books free, and I was like, well, I've already read these, but I'll read them again. And Dennis Lehane was there, who's just an amazing writer and a character, which I kind of assumed because he's a Boston guy. He wrote Mystic River, the movie and the book, and he's just a real Boston, testosterone kind of guy. And Jeffrey Deaver, who also is a great mystery writer, who is just very academic and very quiet and very somber. So it's always fun. Oh, and then the woman Charlene Harris, who was
she's one of my favorite authors.
I know, she wrote the books that True Blood are based on.
The Sookie Stackhouse series.
Yeah. And she's hilarious. Have you ever heard her talk?
Yes.
She's so funny. So funny. So it was just a really good conference because you got to meet some of these very successful authors, and and the Hilton where it was at in Minneapolis was a perfect location because it was a big conference hotel, but a big, huge bar. So after the panels and discussions during the day, it was hop until 2:00 in the morning. It was fast.
Wow. Oh, I'm so glad you had such a great time.
Yeah.
Well, you also find out that, not only does everybody have their own personality and they're all unique, but you also find out that mystery writers are really nice people. I mean, you think that they wouldn't be because they write about murder and all this evil wickedness, but I guess they purge that out of their souls. So they're actually very nice people. And when you talk to them, they're, the soul of the earth type people.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, really fun, really fun. And the panels were amazing because there's one at Killer Nashville that I was on, and it was about theme and where does that come from? What happens to that in your book, and where do you discover it, and how do you use it? And we had a great discussion. And then, I'm asked a lot about screenwriting to novel writing. And there was a guy at ButcherCon named Jordan Harper, who has been working in TV for a long, long time, and he's moved into novel writing. So we were on a panel where people were asking us questions about that, and that was interesting. Just really, it's been a good summer as far as writing, thinking about writing, learning more about the craft, and then 9 days coming out.
Yeah, well, each medium, has its own kind of language and its own conventions and everything, and you have to learn that. And film and TV, especially TV is very fast. You gotta hit the scene, move on to the next scene, and everything like that. Film's a little more extended, but in a book, you can spend a lot of time developing the backstory and and people are always saying, well, the film sucks, the book's better. Well, it's because you're used to reading a book and you get all the information in the background, and all that gets glossed over because you only got 2 hours in the movie,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Right.
Oftentimes you have to trim out some of the story, even maybe a supporting story or even some of the A story. So, yeah, it's difficult to do adaptations well.
Well, I'm sure you'll be able to negotiate all that around, even if you don't write the screenplays for your books.
Well, I have to, I mean, after I figure if I get the 10 books of the Dee Rommel Mystery done, then I know what I want to do next. So I prefer to go on to do that, I think.
Yeah, I have the utmost faith in you because you're a really good writer.
A really good writer.
This isn't the only series that these aren't the only books that you have out there. It's the ones that Pandamoon published. But you also have another book with us. It's a mystery set in Italy.
Right. Find Me in Florence.
Find Me in Florence, right? And that's a really good book too. It's not a crime mystery thing, but it's like figuring out what happened back in the 60s when there was a massive flood in Florence that threatened to destroy works of art that were
and the Mud Angels.
Yeah,
the people who came from all over the world to help retrieve some of this stuff, and they had to hitchhike from Pisa or Rome or however as close as they could get to Florence, because Florence was absolutely devastated, and they were just given rubber boots, and they said start digging, and they would go into the muck and the mud and pull out books and statues and chalices and stuff like that, and there still is a hospital in Florence called the Art Hospital, and they're still trying to put together some of those things from the flood so that they can be put up back into the Uffizi or Academia or some other museum that was ruined, or churches. So yeah, that was a really, really fun book to write.
Yeah, it's a beautiful book.
So I think it's a mystery romance.
I agree.
But yeah, because so this is what I was thinking about today. And Elgon, you can cut this out. But I've been watching. I love football. But and they put the names on the jerseys, and some of the names now are so long. And I mean, not that they weren't before, but I think they're getting longer and longer and longer. And I was thinking, gosh, most of us writers, we try to find names for our characters that tend to be shorter and not quite as difficult to read, and probably easily pronounceable in our heads as we read. What do you guys think?
Well, the way I read patterns. So I just recognize the pattern of somebody's name. I don't actually pronounce it. But that's the way I had to teach myself to read to get by dyslexia.
Oh.
I never learned how to sound out things properly, so I still struggle reading aloud. Even to this day, I'm better at it than I used to be, but I still struggle. I still have anxiety when I have to get up in front of people and read something.
Well, because you read so much and so quickly, I would never have thought that.
Yeah, well, the reason why I read quickly is I don't bother to pronounce things.
Yeah.
I mean, I took reading silently literally. Okay.
Yeah. What about you, Christy?
I agree. Every book I've read, all the names are quite short. You don't really ever see longer names in any novels. I mean, I have one in mind, and everybody always asks me, how do you pronounce this? And I got the name because of the person that wanted me to write this book for her, because that's what her name is. Mm-hmm. And so I've always steered away. After that, I feel like that's something that's kind of swayed me, because people will be like, how do you say that? Well, how do you pronounce that? You know, and so since then, I've kept it kind of simple.
You have to use your knowledge of English phonetics to pronounce the name, because the name is spelled the way it would be pronounced if you didn't pronounce things the normal way, in English. And it's pronounced Stephanie, right?
Yes.
Well, I've been invited to speak at a conference in Stockholm in November. And so I've put on my phone the Swedish language something so that I'll at least be able to say a few words. But I've been over to Scandinavia before, and the street signs are like, they're a mile, they're so long. And so it's really hard for me to navigate because I can't remember the long name. Whereas in New York, it's always been easy for me. 6th Avenue, 5th Avenue, 72nd Street, very easy.
That is very easy.
You find out when you're traveling around Europe, you can always find somebody that speaks English as a second language. I mean, they may not speak it, terribly well, but they at least understand you.
Yeah.
And you don't have as much of that in the United States. We tend to still be isolated, especially the Midwest where I grew up and where Christine lives. You don't come in contact with foreign languages there as often as you do on the coasts and down south and here in Vegas.
And Dee Rommel is interesting to me because she's her mother is very accomplished, lives in Boston, is kind of in a different a social strata that's kind of high, but her dad is a Mainer, and Dee loves Maine, and she's not going anywhere. She doesn't want to leave Portland, but she's educated, and it's interesting for me to kind of embody this person who just loves her town so much, and she cares about the people in their town, and she wants justice where justice can be had. Not that Portland's that small. I mean, you grow up in Portland, you might know quite a few people, but you won't know everybody. And so Dee is an interesting character for me to write because she's so centered in who she is, she knows who she wants to be as a person. Maybe not career choices all the time, but she knows who she wants to be as a person.
And because of her background in law enforcement and wanting to solve problems and everything, she keeps bumping up against the gritty people in the city. The people that she didn't grow up around.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
I'm excited to see where everything takes her. I mean, it's going to be such an awesome ride.
Well, good.
That's an interesting dynamic. And the love life thing is not primary, up in the front, but it's in the background. So you kind of want to know what's going to resolve there. So, by no means is this a romance novel, but you're dealing with people, and part of real life is that you have romantic interludes and relationships and everything else, and all that does affect the way that you handle your day-to-day life and whatever you've chosen to work at.
Yeah, there's one thing I can tell you about 8 days is that in 9 days I introduced the fact that Claren's company has sent a sea blade for her because she was an athlete before she lost her lower limb on her left leg. And she was a basketball player, she was an athlete, she was a marathon runner. And now that it's a year and a half, almost 2 years after the final operations, her leg is ready, her residual limb is ready to try some of these things. And she's nervous, of course. And but she runs her first 10K in 8 days, and you'll have to see how it goes.
Oh, I can't wait.
Yeah, she's using a sea blade, and there's this one kid who's along the running side of the road, and he just pulls at his dad's arm and says, "Oh, Dad, look at how cool that is. Can I get one of those one day?" Not realizing exactly, why people have to use it, but.
Oh, that's going to be a great scene.
Yeah. So, but yeah, so it's fun to see that physical progression she's going to have too.
Well, it's a very deep and well-developed character already, and we're looking forward to seeing where you take her in the future.
Well, thank you very much.
I can't wait. I just can't.
Well, thank you guys.
Let
Well,
me
thank you, Jule.
throw in a quick plug for your other books. I mean, you've got some textbooks on screenplay and screenwriting.
Right.
But you also wrote a book. It's called Dreams of Discovery. It's about John Cabot, one of the famous explorers. He was a British explorer.
Well, no, he wasn't British. He was Italian, Giovanni Cabato. And he grew up in Genoa with Christopher Columbus. They grew up in this town at the same time. And who knows if they ever met, but in my book, because it's historical fiction, they cross paths in a map maker's store because they were both so interested in maps and just exploring and stuff. And whereas Christopher Columbus, found his way to Spain pretty quickly when he was older, but not a kid, and convinced Isabella and Ferdinand to be his patron. Giovanni ended up in Venice, and Italy was not supplying ships for exploration. They couldn't afford it. Anyway, Italy wasn't even Italy at that time. They were small city-states. And then he went to Spain, and Isabella and Ferdinand said, no, we already have Columbus. We don't need you. And he went, and Portugal was already taken because they only had a certain number of ships that the kings would give patronage to. So he went to England and changed his name to John Cabot and finally found his way in front of King Henry VII. And he said, okay, you can fly my flag. And that's why we all speak English. John Cabot, really. He put the English flag all the way down the east coast of America. And, so he really has more to do with who we are today than Columbus.
And then you've got a book called Breaking Barriers. It's about Laura Bassi, who is an Italian, but
Right.
she also knew a lot of people in the early scientific community for electricity and electric research, like Volta and Franklin.
And Galvani, and she was pen pals with Voltaire. Yeah, she was in middle 1700s in Bologna. I think she was a genius. I mean, who knows? But she was very, very, very smart and very, very driven to advance her education, but it wasn't available for women. But she had this incredible father who hired all these tutors, and she became the first experimental physicist ever. And she went through every challenge you could think of, and she finally ended up being able to be a professor at the University of Bologna, which was unheard of, and started the first experimental physics program. So it's a wonderful story.
You got to realize at that time, the conventional wisdom was that women had smaller brains than men, therefore it was a waste to teach them mathematics or anything else like that.
Yeah.
And we now know that the brain size really doesn't equate to the capacity. It's all in there anyway.
Yeah. Well, yes, we've come a long way. Still have further to go, but
it's a journey.
It's a journey.
All right, the new book's called 9 Days. If you want to start at the beginning, then get 10 days. And there's some special deals going on with the pricing of 10 days right now. So you can, if you have a Kindle, you can get it for $1.99 right now. And 9 Days is going to be available on Kindle starting on the 28th. A little secret, if you go to the website, you can kind of like order the print book right now.
Yes.
You can get it early.
And I don't know if I'm speaking out of turn, but I looked on Amazon today and there was a special on the 10 days paperback also.
Really? Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, you.
Well, Amazon does that on their own. That's
Oh, really?
Yeah,
they do. Mm-hmm.
If your name's getting a lot of attention in their algorithm, which is what your publicist is working on, Amazon will start promoting your books a little bit to try to boost things. That's part of their algorithm. So.
So
that part of it's working for you. So
excellent. Good.
And hopefully this will draw the attention of some other people to you as well, and all the other interviews that you've got coming up.
Well, it's interesting. This because I'm this lake cottage that we have outside of Portland, Maine. This little funky cottage that kind of like sways when we walk through it, but it's in a town called Jefferson, Maine, and it's just got a little tiny grocery store and a guy plays guitar there on Saturday, and people come and eat sandwiches and stuff, and it's fantastic. But Lynn, who runs it, it's her place. She said she started doing local authors, so she took 10 days. A couple of books of 10 days. And she said it sold out immediately because word of mouth, people bought one and then they told everybody else. So I went in there yesterday because I just got up here and she was like, oh my God, I'm glad you came in. I need 6 more 10 days. And I said, well, 9 days just came out. She goes, oh, well, give me 10 of those. And I said, oh, I have 10 of those. So, but I'll find them for you.
That is awesome. Congratulations.
So you're gonna be getting reviews from those people because she needs to tell everybody that buys 9 days, you need to write a review for this.
Yes. Yeah. But that was fun because it's my little local place now.
Yeah, that's a great story. And that's so Maine of a story too. I mean,
yeah. It's a town that has a general store and an ice cream shop.
That's awesome. I love little towns like that.
I had the town that I grew up in Ohio had a grocery store that was also the local post office, and then they sold ice cream too, of course. Because it wasn't a big store, but we went to get groceries there. We went to the next biggest small town to get anything major. But yeah.
I'm from a village. The village of Monroeville.
In the summer, my sisters and I used to walk up there. We had to walk up a hill to get there. Imagine that, a hill in Ohio. We had to walk up this hill, and it was at the top of the hill. And the store owner's name was Jerry Thompson, which ironically is no relation to my brother-in-law, who's also named Jerry Thompson. But his wife, who also worked in the store from time to time, was my second grade school teacher. And she's the one that got me interested in reading. I mean, really got me interested in reading because I struggled all through the first grade. And she got me interested in stories because she read to us in class.
Oh, good. Great.
So there's good people like that in the world.
Yes. And they deserve to be in books.
Absolutely. I agree. 100%.
I write a story about her. I think I did actually. It's in a file somewhere, so I'll find it.
Good. Yeah, find that.
All right. We'll have you back for 8 days.
Okay. Thank you.
And good luck with the launch. I'm expecting big things from it. Expecting big things from the series. No pressure.
No pressure.
Well, thank you guys. Thank you for reading it. Thank you for enjoying it.
Thank you for writing it. All right. Well, you take care, Jule.
Okay. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.